that is aligned, and that is aligned. So none of our stuff moved. I didn't expect it to, but I had to verify. And the timing is set on our Mazda Speed engine. Alright, so we got the timing done last time. I just got this in the mail. This is a reducer from 3 inches to 2.5, which is our throttle body to our intercooler piping. And this is looking pretty sweet. I don't have the dipstick in it right now, but it like just misses this pipe. So, and look at that. That is touching, but it's fine. It's not like really running into it. It's just sitting exactly right next to it. So by the time we put a hose clamp on that, it might be rubbing up against that a little bit. Maybe I could shimmy that over to the side. So that's close quarters, but it totally is going to work. Obviously, this needs to be cut. And if this needs to be cut, then that means I need to figure out how to do this. I'm tempted to order the tool myself. It's like 70 bucks on Amazon for a cheap one. But I reached out to some friends, and I think I'm going to be able to use somebody else's. Because it's not something I'm going to have to be able to... It's not something I need to do very often. It's not every day that I do intercooler fab work. So yeah, that's looking pretty sweet. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I decided that I'm going to go with 2 nozzles. I'm going to do a nozzle there and a nozzle on the other side. I would do directly opposing left and right, but this spacer doesn't have a hole over here for some reason. So we're going to do back like that and back like that. And yeah, it's pretty exciting having all this mocked up. It looks absolutely awesome. And what we're working on this evening is the valve cover. I just spent an hour or two cleaning this out with lots of soap and degreaser and the drill with a spinny brush on it and a toothbrush as well, and also the pressure washer in my shower. Made a huge mess, but it's in the name of Boost. So we got a brand new valve cover gasket on there. This is not an OEM valve cover gasket, but this is something that, you know, if it leaks, I can fix it without taking the engine out of the car. And before we do that, because I'm not intending on taking the valve cover off until we run the car, I'm going to do a nice little drizzle. Maybe a little more than that. Just a good amount on all of our lobes. Also, we must be doing something right because we are able to make a full rotation on this, and no valves are crashing into any of our expensive pistons. So the only resistance that I'm feeling is from the pistons, which is almost nothing, and the valve train doing its valve train thing. Look at her go. I kind of want to see that there's oil all along that chain. I want there to be oil on everything that eventually needs to get oil. Wham. Bam. Thank you, ma'am. Oh my god, it looks so good. It looks so good. Look at that. I haven't put any of the bolts in yet. I just set it on there. That's hot. Not sure when I last recorded, but here's where we're at now. We got the high pressure fuel pump assembly on there. I definitely could have gone a little bit further on restoring this, but yeah, I just couldn't be bothered. It's fine. Nobody's going to be staring straight at it, and it's going to have more stuff surrounding it. I just kind of wire wheeled it. Got rid of all the really obvious crusties, but I didn't bother repainting it or anything. It's fine. Right now, I'm threading in all of the studs. All of these have been restored in using the process that I described in the last video with the evaporust and the hot blue. It's going to be so nice putting these exhaust manifold studs and nuts together. Compared to every single other time that I've done it, I've probably tightened and loosened a Mazda Speed exhaust manifold like, I don't know, 10 times so far. Huge pain in the ass. Because these are always really rusted, especially on the cars that I own, and you have terrible access to all of the stuff back here when this is on the car. So installing it off the car is going to be super satisfying. One annoying thing is, so whenever my plan for putting this in the car is we're not going to have any of the intake stuff on. I may take this off as much as I don't really want to because I've already squished the gasket and probably be fine to reuse. But we're going to definitely not have the intake mani on it, but I do want to have the exhaust manifold and the turbocharger and all of its oil lines and stuff done. But I can't do that until it's off the stand, which is a little bit of a problem. I wonder if it would be okay if I removed this one, because I think it's that bolt and that bolt that support the turbo bracket thing. I don't know, this thing's pretty heavy. The last thing I want to do is break one of these off this late in the game. Alright, gang. Last night I realized that I screwed something up and we gotta fix it. So, here is the pin that you put in the engine that hits the crankshaft to set it at top dead center. So, I don't know if I can rotate this with one hand, but this puts the crankshaft where it needs to be when you set the timing. I realized last night that when I set the timing, I did not have this seated in all the way, and it wasn't just a little bit. Let me see if I can... Where was the tool that I was using? It was just a screwdriver. Where'd the screwdriver go? Where'd the screwdriver go? So anyway, this is in there all the way right now. I didn't have it in there all the way when I set the timing because I put this in by hand and it was super duper loose, you know, it was totally free, and then it stopped all of a sudden. I felt like, okay, that's seated where it's needed to be. But just last night I realized that it actually stopped because the threads were gummed up, and it just really felt like it was bottomed out, but it was not. So I took a screwdriver and I put it through the hole in the thing, and I put it through all the way, and I went, oh man. So what that means is it's off by just the smallest amount imaginable, but I could probably leave this, but I'm not going to leave it. Basically, there's a bolt that you're supposed to be able to put through there whenever this is at top dead center, and I can almost get the bolt in there. So this is cocked off to the side compared to how it's supposed to be, just a little bit. It's going this way. Just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit, but it is enough that I am not able to get this in there. You can see the threads are kind of screwed up on it. That's because I put it in there and then I tightened that down just to see how much it was interfering, and it's interfering enough that I'm going to fix it. So, god damn it, that sucks, but at least we figured it out when it's on the stand. Would this actually cause a problem? Almost certainly not. Almost certainly not. It's so close to this, but I can't get the bolt in there, therefore we're going to fix it. Really what it means is that whenever the piston is supposed to be at the very top, it's going to be just the smallest kiss imaginable out of time. Would that ever matter or affect anything? Probably not, but I can't let that slide for how much money I'm spending on this thing. And it's still on the stand, and I still got time. There's still lots of snow outside, so it's not like I'm trying to put this in the car right this second. What pisses me off the most is a couple things. I have to undo the RTV on this. That sucks. I have to undo the small amount of RTV on the valve cover. That sucks. I have to get 3 new of those really expensive friction washers. That really sucks. I spent $100 on them, the first go around because I bought the Mazda ones. But just today, I ordered some from Ford. It's the exact same thing. It's exactly the same thing. This is a Ford engine, but the Ford washers are $10 instead of $28. So I ordered 6 of those so that I have more in the future, in case I ever need to redo the timing, just to have them on hand. So got those for a relatively decent price, like 30 bucks. I got to replace this bolt because this is a torque to yield bolt. So I ordered one of those too. I made the stupid mistake. I don't know how much of a mistake it is at this point. I put red thread lock on this. Not a crazy amount, but I put red thread lock on this because it felt like a good idea. And I'm immediately regretting that. Immediately. So here's one slight upside. I get to try to use my new M12 stubby with my new 5 amp hour high output. This is the battery that is required to make 550 foot-pounds worth of nut-busting torque with that guy. So that's going to be fun to try, only if it works. We're going to see if that is good enough to remove this bolt. And I'm going to heat it up before I do that because I put red thread lock on it. And yeah, I'm regretting that decision a lot. I was hoping that I wouldn't have to take this off for a couple years, much less within the same week. Alright, we yanked stuff apart. We got the hoop off of there, the high pressure fuel pump. And we got the timing cover, or the valve cover off. And now is the time that I would like to see if that thing, which is approximately 230 foot-pounds-ish, it's 75 foot-pounds plus 90 degrees. I want to know if the new Milwaukee M12 stubby with the XC 5.0 battery can yank this off. Here goes nothing. Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome. 12-volt tools. You don't need 18 volts no more. Alright, my main goal for this evening was figuring out if I need to buy new friction washers for the camshafts. So, the reason why I have to take this sprocket off is because we have to replace the friction washers on the stack. So that even means that the oil pump chain has to come off. And normally the whole chain, normally you would take this off, or both of them, and then the chain can come off real easy. But I want to see if I can not loosen that or that. So I want to see if removing the tensioner and this guide will allow me to get that out. I think we're in business. So I can't quite just take the chain off like this. See, I've removed that guide. But it's got enough sideways movement that I think I can just do that without stressing anything out. And there we go. There we go. Alright boys, we're back on the track to success. The part that I hate about this is not that I made a mistake, not that I have to buy the new friction washers, although that does frustrate me. It's having to clean all this stuff meticulously again. I really don't enjoy cleaning anything, especially, well, I guess as far as cleaning things goes, this is one of the more fun things to clean, but still, having to clean this RTV really sucked, and I still haven't done a perfect job, but I have to call it good at some point. The RTV that I used, it likes to leave, like, this is incredibly thin and extremely difficult to remove. You can't use a razor blade, like it's too thin to be scraped up by a razor blade. It is like in the divots of the material, of the steel. And yeah, I'll probably do a little bit better job cleaning that off, but I can really only do so much. Okay. Chain is on there. Tensioner is installed and torqued. I've not released it yet. That's been torqued. Nothing else was loosened. This doesn't have any bolts, so I don't have to worry about that. I think we are ready to throw a friction washer on there, flip this, do a final cleaning. I'll probably want to clean that stuff off. That's like the only area where I was kind of lazy. We can't be lazy. It's not allowed. We'll be redoing it if we're lazy. And then we're going to... The timing cover is clean. It's good to go. Yeah, I guess I got to give this a rotato. This part's kind of fun. Twang. Alright. We're done of all of the cleaning. And we're done of this part of the RTVing. I better not be putting this down just to have to take it off again. I'll lose my mind. We have made contact. Time to put these 8 million screws back in and torque them in the right order. Alright gang, it is March 4th and we are continuing along the battle. We're working on like 6 different things right now. We are doing some work on the transmission pivot shaft. I need to replace the seal that's in it. So there's the thing that connects to it. Got the gasket all cleaned up. Here's the engine wiring harness, which has received its first pass of cleaning with degreaser and the drill with a brush on it. And the pressure washer, it's looking pretty nice and clean. I'll probably do some more stuff to it when I actually get it in the car. Gotta do some soldering on it. That's my soldering from whenever I first installed the headlights. We're going to improve that and not just piggyback off these random wires. I'm actually going to do a fuse tap this time. So that's another thing that we're working on. And I redid the timing as much as I didn't feel like doing that. That is done now. I did it with the pin 100% inserted, and the timing is absolutely gosh darn perfect. And I've set this absolutely gosh darn perfect, the crankshaft position sensor. I just put that on tonight. This is kind of interesting and annoying. So, methanol nozzles. I'm going to do 2 methanol nozzles because I am worried that if I do a single methanol nozzle, like right there, it's going to probably not feed all 4 cylinders equally. And I think I already rambled about this in this video, so I'll try to not make this too long. I asked my tuner about doing port-injected methanol, which would have been really cool, but it would have been like an extra $400, and he said don't bother, as much as I kind of wanted to, because it would have looked cool. So my compromise is doing 2 of these AEM nozzles in the throttle body spacer. So the things that make fitment of this a little bit interesting, the fact that I'm using a throttle body spacer, and the fact that I have a Cork Sport aftermarket throttle body. So it's a little bit bigger than the stock one, and it also does not have coolant ports, which is nice, because I wouldn't be using them anyway, because I'm not going to be wintering this vehicle. So originally I was planning on having this in a different orientation. I was planning on having this black plastic part at the back, and I thought that there was plenty of room for that, but then as soon as I put the starter on, I realized that the starter majorly, what's the word I'm looking for? They occupy the same space, they hit each other, it doesn't fit. So, my next best idea, I have options and I'm not sure which one I want to go with. We're probably going to go with how I have it right now. I originally didn't think that this was possible because this dipstick gets unbelievably close to it. I had to move this bracket over, see how this isn't straight up and down anymore. I had to shimmy that over to the side in order to clear this. So I think this is how you're supposed to do it. Again, how am I supposed to know, because this Damon kit for this intake manifold doesn't have instructions. It doesn't tell you how to do it. But I think this is what I'm going to do. I could also potentially have the throttle body 180 compared to how it is right now. But then this bulbous bit right here would be sticking out the front, and I think it's going to run into the radiator fans. I don't know without having it in the car. I don't know if I talked about this yet or not. Here are the throttle shifter cables. these control the shifting. And previously, I think I took video of this. One of them, this one, was really gummed up. There was, I don't know, old grease or something. There was contamination on the inside of this hose, and it felt like molasses whenever you were trying to move this back and forth. You would directly feel that in the shifter. And now it is nice and free again. Why did it do that for the second time? I've already fixed this problem once. It is probably because I kind of messed it up more. But this boot originally looked like this one, and it's supposed to mount right there. And it had multiple holes in it. It had tears in it. And that dirt getting in here is probably what caused the problem. So what I did is I popped this apart. I actually have a video. I have a couple-year-old video on how to do this, so I won't go into super deep detail. Basically, you take everything apart, pop that out, and you run cleaning fluid through it until all of the crap is out of the line. And this time I'm not going to try and lubricate it at all. Last time when I did this, I left penetrating fluid like inside here, and potentially that dried out over time and caused the molassesiness in combination with dirt getting in there. Anyway, I don't know. We're going to leave it dry this time, and I'm going to do some slight jiggering and modifying of this boot, because you can't really remove this boot or replace it separately. Pretty much anytime anything goes wrong with these shifter cables, they say to replace them, and they're like $500, and I ain't paying $500 for new shifter cables when I can probably fix them. Basically, what I plan on doing in order to make this work and seal again without actually replacing it is I took this one and I cut it like right there, because this part is torn over here further down, and I took it and I pulled it over this white thing. And it is just the right size where it is meeting up and sealing against it. So I'm gonna I'll chop this more so that it looks clean, and I might do a zip tie on the other end, just to make it a little bit more better, make sure that nothing's going in there. And I'm confident that that is going to seal, because there's nothing wrong with anything on the rest of this boot. It was just this end was letting crap into it, and it made it feel like crap. So hopefully we're going to fix this again and never have to take the shifter cables out of the car, because it's a huge pain in the butt. It is very not fun. So hopefully we're fixing it right enough this time. Also, I am replacing this. This is probably a stupid thing that I don't need to fix, but I'm working on it anyway. It has this heat shield on it, or it had this heat shield on it, and it was just in horrible shape from being on the car the last 15 years. There's a section that goes there, and a slightly larger section that goes on the other one. This is where it goes up against the downpipe, so that heat shield is so it doesn't melt. I ordered some stuff off Amazon to replace that, so we're going to wait for that, put it on here, and then install this back on the car. And that will be one more thing before the engine can leave the house and go get mated to the transmission and go into the car. Also, another thing that we're working on so many different things at the same time right now. I want to fix the underglow. My underglow was pretty messed up after I drove with it for like a year or two. I didn't properly waterproof the strips that go on the side of the car, so this is the side skirt. And I took it off the car because I want to clean this as much as I can, and it's going to be a combination of the adhesive that's on the LED strip. This time I'm going to be using LED strip that I'm not going to be able to describe this without just showing it to you. Instead of doing the type like this that has a sheath where it's possible for water to get inside if you don't waterproof the ends properly, we're going to be using this style. This one's kind of burnt and old, but you get the idea. It is it's like epoxied. And then I'm going to use liquid electrical tape on the ends. And that should make it so that it's not possible for water to enter the strip. And also I'm going to do connectors this time, because having it hard soldered onto the car was a pain in my ass. Here's the pivot shaft I gave it a nice paint because that thing was looking all nasty and crusty. Same thing with whatever you call this. This is the thing, so the pivot shaft seal goes right in there. And then the pivot shaft goes through there, and then this goes into the transmission. Here is a breather. I'm gonna make sure that that's nice and clear, because apparently what can cause this to leak is if this is blocked with oil and crap and dirt, then it can't breathe, and then oil gets pushed out this seal. And I was getting, that's a very, very common problem on these cars, having that leak. So I'm not shocked at all that mine is leaking. So we're gonna try and fix that. I've never messed with this on a Mazda Speed before. And here's the little doodad that goes on the transmission. Helps the shifting do the shifting. So we painted it too. Also, we got ourselves another ultrasonic cleaner. We got a 6-liter in addition to the 2-liter. So the general idea is that I'll have degreaser in one of them and evaporust in the other one. So right now this one has evaporust, and it's pretty dead evaporust, so I'm heating it up so it actually can do something again. Trying to de-rust the hardware for that. And then this one is full of degreaser, and it's been very useful for cleaning the crap off of things. Those are the shells that go on the shifter cables. How's our oil cap looking? Eh, it's still full of crap. Leave that in there for a bit. This is quite effective. I'm a huge fan of degreaser and the ultrasonic. But I learned don't use this particular stuff on aluminum. It will eat the aluminum. Avoid prolonged contact on aluminum and also motorcycles. All right, boys, here is the situation. We are out in the ARC 7 tent, just because it's workshop space that's outside. I don't feel like carrying this inside because it weighs 1,000,000 pounds. But I do plan on painting it this evening, if possible. I've spent a couple of sessions over a couple of evenings cleaning this off with the wire wheel. So everything used to look like, everything used to look crusty and crappy. And now it's looking a whole lot better. And if I don't put some layer of something on top of this, it is going to very rapidly start corroding again. Even just in between my sessions working on this, it was corroding quite a bit because it's winter and it's cold and it's wet. So I have an electric space heater there, a propane space heater there, and we're trying to warm this thing up. It is not ready for paint quite yet in my mind. I want to mask this off a little bit better. This is where the pivot shaft goes into. And certainly before I paint it, I need to get this bolt out. So we got the welder going. Wish me luck. Like butter. Alright, this is now what I consider to be good enough TM. As good as I'm going to get it without sandblasting it, and if I were to sandblast it, I'd probably have to take the entire thing apart to do it without getting grit into everything. And I'm not even going to paint the whole thing. I'm doing a bit of a lazy job on this. I just want to paint the area that you see in the engine bay, and that's about it. Not going to spend a million years cleaning every single nook and cranny of this. Just on the top, where you see, and kind of on the front. So, it's getting warmer. What are we looking at for temperature? 20 degrees is what we want. It's looking pretty good. I'm like, what about like way over here? Yeah, 17. Maybe I'll go inside for like 20 minutes and set this in where it's warm, so our paint is nice and warm too. and I'll come back and we'll give it a spritz. I'd say that's looking pretty good. Perfect? Molecularly perfect? No, not even close. But good enough? I think so. I think so. Alright, and there's our second coat, like 10 minutes later. Check us out. Here is our nice and restored pivot shaft and cover. So I just installed a new seal in here so it doesn't leak from right in there. Brand new seal, and cleaned up everything, sandblasted some of these things. Some of these things I just wire wheeled and then painted and stuff. So it looks all good now. Really liking the look of this. Hot glued all the hardware. There's the rest of the hardware to actually install this into the transmission. And now that the transmission has been painted, we can install this right now. So let's go. I'm excited to see what it looks like. There's another part that I don't know how to describe it, but it's like a lever that has to do with the shifter. You'll see how it goes together. The keen-eyed among you may have noticed that I had it assembled absolutely incorrectly. I had it 180 degrees off where the spring pin thing is supposed to be, and I didn't know that this knobule is supposed to go inside of this slot thing right here. So I'm pretty sure I have it together correctly this time. Alright, we are ready to insert our shaft. I don't really know what the trick is to getting this back in, or what the trick was to getting it out. I took it out with this bolt still in, which I don't exactly know what it does. I really don't know anything about this, okay? I'm just trying to have it work the same way whenever it goes back together and have it look half decent. But yeah, this bolt goes through, and I think it interfaces with this thing right here. Kind of looks like a gear selector pattern. And you're definitely supposed to back that out whenever you remove this. And I backed it out now for whenever I put it back in. But it is kind of finicky to getting it in there. You really just kind of have to trust your instincts and fidget with it until it seats in there. So here goes nothing. All right. There just a second ago. Okay, yeah. See, what was the trick there? I don't know. And I think that's seated. Do we have, does it act like a shifter? Good. 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 Okay, before we try anything else, I'm going to put the actual bolts in because I'm sure that affects something. Please tell me I don't have it in backwards. Giles doesn't know what he's doing. I need to look at a picture of how this all goes together, but I'm pretty sure I have that out 180 degrees. Yeah, there's no way that's right. Damn it. I gotta friggin' pound out the spring pin again. Oh, kill me. Alright, let's just say I should have paid a little bit more attention to how this was supposed to go together. But I hope we're getting there in the end. I just flipped this around again, and we got the thing in the slot, right? So we had it right the first time, but I didn't have this in its slot, and it really didn't seem right. But now that I know that that has to go into its slot, I mean, it's kind of obvious now, but I wasn't paying attention. Now we're paying slightly more attention, and I think this is ready to go in. Now we're cruising. Nah, I do not have the means to figure out that torque spec in a reasonable amount of time. So we're just going to go to 15. That's probably what it is anyway. Getting pretty used to what the torque specs are for this engine and transmission. I have the factory service manual for the engine, but not the transmission. That's why I can't just look it up. Yeah, that feels about right. I don't know if I'm going to be able to properly torque that one. Sure we are, with an extension. That would be... It doesn't feel quite right. That would be like fourth. That would be third. There it went in. Then that would be like first. That, I believe, would be reverse, which it doesn't quite seem to want to go into right now. Which pretty much adds up to how it felt to drive the car sometimes. Which way is reverse? Is that reverse? I don't know. What about up? Yeah. Yeah. Stays in gear. Alright. Awesome. So hopefully this doesn't leak. But nothing. Hopefully it doesn't leak. God damn it, man. I should have just left it alone. I was looking at this thing, and I was wondering if there was movement within these bolt holes to shift it over a little bit more, because it looked like it was sitting a little far. And so I just loosened them and moved this over, and then torqued it to 15 foot-pounds again. And this one's sheared, as you can see. God damn it. 15 foot-pounds is really, I don't think, that much for bolts like this. Now I'm not going to be able to find one that matches, unless, I guess I could... Never mind. I'm actually probably... in the same tent with a bolt that matches. Yeah, I will probably steal one from the Speed 6 transmission, because it'll match. That is so stupid. Why did you snap? And how impossible is it going to be for me to extract those threads? I don't want to have to use the welder, because I don't want to mess up the paint that I just did last night. Frig! Alright, I guess the universe doesn't hate me that much, because I can just get it out with my fingers. But still, why? Why? It wasn't like crazy rusted before, was it? None of these were that bad. Weird. 15 foot-pounds on a... Oh, what is this? I think this is an M8 thread. Well, I guess I gotta go restore another bolt. Alright, we took the bolt from the Speed 6 transmission. And, it's the same thing, right? Yes. Alright, I'm going to go hit this with the wire wheel, and then I'm going to hot glue it so it looks nice. Then I'm going to take it out here. And, I certainly don't want to have the same thing happen again. Here's an idea. This thing can tell me how much torque it takes to remove bolts. So if I try and remove it from the Speed 6, what is the torque spec? That is not the right way to figure out torque specs on things, but I'm having this thought right now, so screw it. What does it take to remove one of these? I think it'll store its highest torque value. Well, that's it hitting 15 right there. Oh yeah, that's tight as shit. I think we just had a bitch of a bolt, honestly. I'm just gonna torque it to 15 again. If it snaps, it wasn't meant to be. Now that I think about it, It's probably the fact that hot bluing, I recognize that doing this makes the bolts more brittle, harder, I believe. I don't know that much about metallurgy, but I know that heating it up like this will mess with its hardness. I still think it's fine to do on anything that's like not the crank bolt, but this could be an explanation as to why that bolt broke. Since this one is shorter than the other ones, and it doesn't share the mounting pattern, it's not one of the 4 main ones that hold that piece of aluminum down. I'll do this one to like 10 foot-pounds, 12 foot-pounds, and we'll call that a day. Okay, let's forget that that happened as well. Crisis averted. Good. Beautiful. So it is reverse. That's reverse. Yeah, definitely. And then if I go up just one little bit more, then we'll be in first and second territory, and third and fourth, then fifth and sixth, I think. Anyway, seems to be working properly. Let's go. Alright, the shifter cables are just about ready to go back into the car. I got all 4 of these little things glued back together using thin CA glue. I think I did a better job than I did the first time. Even though I made a little bit of a mess, doesn't really matter, as long as these don't separate. And here's what I was talking about with the boots. So, first of all, I put zip ties around the ends of the boots just because it'll be more better. And with this one, because this was ripped, like, right along there, I cut that part off, and I pulled it back a little bit further. Thankfully, you know, this thing it can stretch a little bit longer if I need it to. And I threw a zip tie right there. So you can actually see visually that these are sealing well now. If I pull this out really fast, you'll see that it holds vacuum. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know how easy this is going to be to record. See that? And then it slowly sucks in air, and I think where that air is coming in is through here. And you can see that on the factory setup as well. So these are both sealed pretty good now. And what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to fill this with grease, because this is an area right here where this can pivot. Crap can get in there, and that's probably more likely to be where our contamination came from than in this part. So I'm going to fill the ends of this with grease to try and prevent dirt from getting in there. Also, I talked recently about how I took the old nasty heat shield section off of this. I got this stuff in the mail from Amazon today. It is Velcro heat shield, and I cut it to length, and I was thinking about how I'm going to secure this. I'm just going to try and rely on that and that stopping it, and also the fact that this is going to be bent. I don't think this is going to be moving around too much. I'm happy with how clean it looks. It uses Velcro to attach itself together, and the only thing that doesn't thrill me about this is whenever you cut it to length, the threads that hold the Velcro in kind of start going all over the place. So I had the CA glue on the bench. I just threw a tiny little bit of CA glue on the threads that go through the Velcro to prevent the Velcro from slowly coming off over time. So this is a cool new thing in our arsenal. I have like another meter of it for throwing heat shielding on random things. Alright, I filled the syringe with grease, and I put a bunch of grease around there, and that is as much due diligence as I can really provide this without just replacing the entire shifter cable assembly. So hopefully this does not feel like molasses again in another 2 years. Alright, time for the part I both am and am not looking forward to. Putting the shifter cables back in the car. Looking forward to having this done. Not looking forward to having to fish these through. There's like a really tiny hole in the car that is exactly this size. and you have to feed this whole thing in from the inside of the car to the outside. And it's real, see, so it's sheet metal is what's around that hole. And I've covered these with tape to hopefully not rip them on the way in, because that would be totally counterproductive. We're trying to make sure that dirt doesn't get back in these again. And I just zip tied this like that temporarily, so that both of these don't have to go through the hole at this, like, right next to one another, because there basically isn't room for that. I've done that in the past and just kind of fought with it and tugged on it, and eventually it worked, but this should make it much less horrible. So, let's go. This is a truly dreadful job I would not wish on my worst enemy. See what I mean with, those things side by side literally do not have enough clearance in that hole. So I think you actually have to do what I did with the zip ties and intentionally offsetting them. What a nightmare this is, man. Look where I am right now. It is so awkward getting in here, and I'm alternating between going inside the car and pushing it through, and then coming in here and pulling it through. And there's just so many obstacles and things that it hits, and you're trying to not rip the boot, and oh my god, I hate this job so much. I'm pleased to inform you that we have moved the engine into the tent for its next stage, which is getting this transmission bolted up to it and the clutch installed and stuff. So I think I'm going to leave it on the stand for when I put the transmission on, and then I will pick it up with the crane, and then we will move it over to the car and we will install it into the car. Obviously not today, it's nighttime right now, but we're preparing. So yeah, this is very exciting. Once it's on the crane, I'll also be able to start working on the stuff that's on this side of the engine. It is quite annoying that I can't work on the turbo. Like, that's the turbo drain line right there. It would be going right through this. And I'm pretty sure this is one of the bolts that does the turbo mount bracket. So yeah, we need it to be floating before we do any turbo exhaust manifold stuff. And that needs to be done before it goes in the car. The intake manifold I'm going to leave off of it until it's in the car, because it bulks it up quite a bit. And yeah,